Imagine this. One day you wake up and realize that most of your life has been spent chasing approval. Every choice, every move, every hesitation shaped not by your deepest desires, but by the silent weight of other people's expectations. Think about it. How many times have you acted not because you wanted to, but because you feared being judged? How often have you shaped yourself to fit an image, a role, or a standard that wasn't even yours to begin with? And here comes the great question. What if caring too much about what others think is the very thing holding you back from the life you were meant to live?
Ew.
De Montaigne, the French philosopher who lived centuries ago, wrestled with this very paradox. He believed that the moment you stop caring not in the sense of apathy or laziness, but in freeing yourself from the endless hunger for approval, life begins to fall into place. His writings invite us to confront a radical idea. Maybe your happiness, confidence, and even success do not come from control, perfection, or validation, but from letting go. Let that settle in for a moment. What if the key to your freedom is not in adding more effort, more striving, more pleasing, but in subtracting? In learning to release the fears, the overthinking, the need to prove yourself to everyone else? Montaigne, a thinker far ahead of his time, dared to question the foundations of identity and success. He asked us to reflect. Who are you when you no longer perform for an audience? Who are you when you let go of the burden of appearances? Most people live as prisoners of their own minds. They rehearse conversations endlessly, punishing themselves for mistakes no one remembers. They replay scenarios, worrying about how they were perceived. 8. They mold themselves into versions of acceptability, hoping not to offend, not to stand out, not to be disliked. And yet in all this desperate caring, what is lost? It's their authenticity, their freedom, their joy. Montaigne saw this clearly. He knew that perfection is an illusion, that control is fleeting, that chasing approval is a game you can never win. And he invited us to try something different, to stop caring about the things that do not truly matter. But here's where most people misunderstand. Not caring doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean giving up on your dreams, neglecting responsibilities, or turning away from life. No, for Montaigne, not caring was a liberation. It was the art of shifting your focus from the trivial to the essential, from the noise of other people's opinions to the quiet strength of your own heart. Think about the most confident people you've ever met. Were they the ones desperately seeking approval, explaining themselves at every turn, obsessing over being liked? Or were they the ones who seemed effortlessly at ease, unbothered by small worries, rooted in their own presence? Confidence, Montaigne reminds us, doesn't come from proving yourself. It comes from no longer needing to. And here lies the paradox. The less you care about impressing others, the more naturally impressive you become. The less you fear rejection, the more attractive you are. The less you strive to control life, the more freely life flows toward you. Montaigne knew that human beings are drawn to authenticity, not performance. And when you stop caring about approval, you unlock the very magnetism you were chasing all along. But why is it so hard to let go? Why do we cling so tightly to control, to appearances, to the exhausting need to please? Montaigne believed it comes from our inability to accept uncertainty. We want to plan, predict, and secure every outcome, but life is not built that way. It is unpredictable, chaotic, and filled with imperfection. The more we fight this truth, the more we suffer. But the moment we accept it, the moment we let go of what cannot be controlled, something extraordinary happens. Consider how much lighter you would feel if you stopped overanalyzing every word, every mistake, every reaction. Imagine how much energy you would save if you stopped living for the approval of people who may never truly understand you. Picture yourself finally living on your own terms. It's making choices not because they be applauded, but because they realigned with who you are. This is Montaigne's invitation: to embrace imperfection, to accept uncertainty, to stop resisting life as it is and begin flowing with it. Because as he saw, most of our suffering comes not from life itself, but from our resistance to it. And here's something fascinating. The moment you stop caring excessively, things don't fall apart, they fall into place. When you stop worrying about being perfect, you find yourself embracing your flaws. When you stop chasing approval, you start living for yourself. When you stop trying to control everything, opportunities appear naturally. The less energy you waste on needless struggles, the more energy you have to focus on what truly matters. Think about this. How many times have you hesitated to share your opinion because you feared how it would be received? How often do you replay interactions in your mind, wondering if you sounded foolish? How many times have you buried your desires because you thought they wouldn't be accepted? These are the chains Montaigne wants us to break. And once you begin, you'll notice something remarkable. Your relationships become more genuine. Your conversations become more honest. Your decisions become clearer. Why? Because they are no longer filtered through the lens of what will others think, but guided by what do I truly value. This is the hidden strength of not caring. It doesn't disconnect you from life. It connects you to it more deeply. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you authentic. It doesn't make you reckless. It makes you wise enough to discern what truly deserves your energy. And here's the secret Montaigne understood centuries before modern psychology confirmed it. Human beings are naturally drawn to those who are free within themselves. When you stop clinging to the need for validation, when you stop explaining, defending, and apologizing for simply being who you are, you become magnetic. People sense your freedom, your presence, your self-acceptance, and they want to be near it. But most importantly, you yourself begin to feel something you may not have felt in years. Peace. The peace of not overthinking every move. The peace of not replaying the past or fearing the future. The peace of knowing that you do not need to be perfect, because perfection was never the goal. This is the heart of Montaigne's philosophy. Not caring is not about rejecting life. It is about embracing it fully, openly, and without the weight of unnecessary burdens. It is about living with freedom instead of fear, authenticity instead of approval, presence instead of performance. And as we continue this journey into Montaigne's wisdom, the question grows deeper. If letting go is this powerful, what happens when we fully embrace it? What transformations occur when we truly stop chasing, fearing, and forcing and allow life to unfold as it will? That is where the next part of our exploration begins. So let us return to the question we left hanging. What happens when you fully embrace this way of living? When you stop caring about appearances, outcomes, and endless approval, and instead begin to trust that life will fall into place. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that most of the pressures you've carried for years were illusions. The fear of failure, the endless pursuit of being liked, the desperate attempt to plan for every outcome. These are not truths, they are cages built by society, conditioning, and our own restless minds. And Montaigne understood this better than anyone. He knew that human beings are naturally anxious creatures, always trying to control the uncontrollable. But he also knew that this obsession with control is the very thing that robs us of peace. He taught us something radical. Happiness does not come from solving every problem. It comes from accepting that some problems don't need to be solved, that some uncertainties are simply part of life, that sometimes the greatest act of strength is to surrender. Think about it. How much time have you wasted trying to explain yourself to people who will never truly understand you? How much energy have you poured into justifying your choices to those who do not even live your life? How many moments have you lost replaying conversations worrying about what someone might have thought? Montaigne would look at us and ask, "Why do you care so much about the judgments of others, when the only approval that truly matters is your own?" And he was right. Much of our suffering comes from caring about things that add no real value to our lives. We tie ourselves in knots over petty concerns, over the opinions of strangers, over slights that will be forgotten tomorrow. We cling to grudges, to fears, to insecurities, as if they define us. And yet when we step back, we see how small most of these worries really are. Have you ever noticed that when you stop obsessing over a problem, a solution suddenly appears? Or that when you stop chasing someone's attention, they become more interested? This is no accident. It is a reflection of a deeper truth. When you stop clinging so tightly, life flows. When you let go, things align in ways you never expected. But here's the catch. Most people resist this idea. They think that if they stop caring, they'll lose motivation. They fear that letting go means giving up. But Montaigne would remind us that this is a misunderstanding. Not caring does not mean apathy. It does not mean laziness. It means focusing only on what truly matters and freeing yourself from the weight of unnecessary burdens. Consider how much lighter you would feel if you no longer needed to control every outcome, if you no longer feared every failure, if you no longer needed every person to like you. Imagine how different your life would be if you shifted your energy away from appearances and approval toward meaning, growth, and authenticity. Montaigne encouraged us to embrace imperfection, not just in ourselves, but in the world around us. He knew that striving for absolute control is a battle we can never win. Life is unpredictable. Plans fall apart. People misunderstand us. Failures come when we least expect them. And yet, he insisted, these moments are not disasters. They are part of existence. They are steps along the path. Think of the great artists, leaders, and thinkers throughout history. None of them escaped failure. None of them avoided rejection. None of them lived without being misunderstood. Yet they persisted. They moved forward. Not because they were free from fear, but because they refused to let the opinions of others define them. They understood what Montaigne understood, that true success comes not from validation, but from authenticity. And here is where Montaigne's philosophy becomes even more powerful. When you adopt this mindset, people notice. You become more confident, more magnetic, more respected. Not because you are trying harder, but because you have stopped trying so hard. Because you are no longer wasting energy on things that do not matter. Think about it. Why do some people seem effortlessly attractive, while others struggle no matter how hard they try? It isn't always talent or intelligence or even hard work. More often, it is mindset. Those who thrive are not crushed by the fear of failure. They are not enslaved to the need for approval. They carry themselves with ease, with freedom. That freedom is magnetic. Montaigne would say that the more you release, the more you gain. When you stop fearing failure, you take more risks, and those risks lead to growth. When you stop seeking approval, you become more authentic. People are drawn to authenticity. When you stop trying to control everything, you make space for life to surprise you, and opportunities arise where you least expect them. This is why not caring, when practiced wisely, is not about losing it is about gaining. It is about gaining freedom, clarity, peace. It is about choosing where to place your energy, rather than scattering it on meaningless worries. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, how much of your life has been shaped by fear? Fear of being judged. Fear of failing. Fear of being misunderstood. How many times have you held yourself back from something you wanted because you cared too much about what others might say? How many nights have you lost replaying mistakes, punishing yourself for things you cannot change? Montaigne's answer is simple. Let it go. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. The only thing you truly own is this moment. And in this moment, you have a choice to live burdened by fears and expectations, or to release them and live free. And here's the great paradox. Detachment, rather than pushing people away, actually deepens your connections. Why? Because true connection does not come from control.
Ow.
It does not come from forcing others into our expectations.
Ow.
It comes from acceptance. When you allow people to be themselves, when you release the need to control their opinions or actions, your relationships become more genuine. And ironically, this makes you more respected, more admired, more loved. Have you ever noticed that those who are desperate for attention often receive the least of it, while those who are calm and self-assured naturally draw others in? This is Montaigne's insight. The way you relate to others reflects the way you relate to yourself. If you are constantly seeking validation, it means you have not yet accepted yourself. If you fear being alone, it means you have not yet become comfortable in your own company. If you need others to behave a certain way in order to feel secure, it means you have not yet cultivated your own inner stability. But once you shift your focus inward, everything changes. When you stop trying to control people, you give them space to come closer. When you stop fearing loneliness, you discover the richness of your own presence. When you stop measuring your worth by external standards, you step into a freedom that cannot be taken away. This is the true heart of Montaigne's philosophy. Peace comes from within, not from approval, not from control, not from perfection. It's from within. And once you understand this, your entire approach to life changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself with a quiet power that does not need to shout or prove itself. So imagine this. You walk through the world unshaken by criticism. You face uncertainty without fear. You love people freely, without needing to control them. You live fully, without being paralyzed by mistakes or rejections. This is what happens when you stop caring about the things that do not truly matter. And here is the most important truth. Letting go does not mean withdrawing from life. It does not mean becoming cold, indifferent, or detached from feeling. It means engaging more fully than ever before, but without the chains of fear. It means caring deeply about what truly matters. Your values, your peace, your purpose, and letting go of everything else. Montaigne's wisdom calls us to this balance, to care deeply where it matters, and to release where it does not. To stop fighting the tides of life, and instead learn to flow with them. To recognize that uncertainty is not a threat, but a teacher. That imperfection is not a flaw, but a gift. That detachment is not escape, but freedom. So the question returns to you. What are you still holding on to that no longer serves you? What fears, what expectations, what attachments weigh you down? And what would your life look like if you set them aside? Because Montaigne reminds us of something simple, something powerful, something easily forgotten in the noise of the world. When you stop caring about the wrong things, the right things find their way to you. You don't have to force them. You don't have to chase them. You only have to create space by letting go. And perhaps that is the greatest wisdom of all.